This podcast is presented to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming and expert of men's hair removal. Have you covered for your much-needed resolution of feeling your best? Join the 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code KICKINIT for 20% off plus free shipping. It's time to level up and fully align your hygiene routine with the most stylish and premium grooming products out there. For listeners who don't know about Manscaped, I just want to talk to you about their products. If you're looking to upgrade your hygiene and grooming routine, I recommend the Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0. The king of this package is the Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer offers a ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology, reducing the cuts and nicks on your delicate parts. It also comes equipped with a 4000K LED spotlight, something you never knew you needed, but is a game changer. This trimmer is also the perfect size to travel with if you're a busy traveller. Plus, it's waterproof if you prefer to shave in the shower. Don't trim your nose hairs? Well, now you easily can with the Weed Whacker nose and ear and hair trimmer. A grooming routine isn't complete without applying the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver before showing off your 2023 self. These unique formulations take care of the smelliest part of your body and are a big boost to your confidence. To complete the set, Manscaped threw in their Shed travel bag and anti-chafing boxer briefs as free gifts. These products are an absolute perfect follow-up after your gym and training sessions. Take advantage of Manscaped's best value bundle and save 20% off and free shipping with code KICKINIT at manscaped.com. Okay, welcome guys. We're going to be dropping some serious knowledge bombs in this one for all combat athletes. We've got my man P. Miller in from Condition Nutrition. We've been getting asked quite a lot for a long time to get you on, but you've been too busy fucking jet setting all over the world, here and there and everywhere. But we've got him pinned down now, mate. We've got him in the studio, and we've had loads of questions from Instagram. I've got loads of questions that I want to ask you myself, so it's going to be a really interesting one, mate. Thank you for joining us, pal.
Pleasure, man.
Just before we get started into it all, you've been all over the place with your fighters recently, haven't you? Where have you just come back from?
So I was back in the UK for about 3 months. Went to Thailand for 2 months. A couple of lads fighting this. Savvas was fighting. Then I went to Dubai. I had a lad fighting on the Floyd Mayweather card. Then I went to Singapore with Haggerty and Liam Nolan for the last fight. And then back to Thailand for Savvas. And then in Australia, and then come back about 10 days ago.
The life of an international fucking jet setter, mate. You've got quite a few. Like, how many fighters have you got on your cards at the minute then that you're looking after at the minute?
Probably about 50 odd at the moment.
That's fucking crazy, isn't it? It must get absolutely wild, like if you've got a fight coming up and you've got, let's fucking say 10 fighters all fighting on the same weekend or something like that, because I'm guessing stuff like that happens.
Yeah. All the time, yeah. Just takes a lot of managing and
I can't imagine the stress levels, mate.
A lot of phone calls, a lot of catching up with people to make sure the following.
Yeah. Right. Before we get into all the ins and outs of nutrition and all the rest of it, because there's a lot of important information that I want you to get out there to people.
Yeah.
Because there's so many fighters who might think they know about nutrition. Like I used to think I did, but it's all a load of bollocks, really. So yeah, before we get into that, what got you into it, or why nutrition and why combat athletes?
So, long story, I as a kid, I was just a knobhead in school, left school, no GCSEs, and the only GCSE I had was PE and history, and then ended up doing a couple of shitty jobs. And I was 20, I realised I need to do something here. And I always liked sport, always played football, did a bit of Thai, did a bit of jiu-jitsu, and just like sport in general. So did a sports science degree, did a master's, and then in sports nutrition, and set up my own business thinking, this is it, going to start working with loads of athletes. It doesn't usually work like that when you first start a business. And then moved to Australia, decided I wanted to move to Australia, and started working online. Wasn't really making a full-time income, working with a couple of fighters here and there. And then I remember a couple of fighters reached out to me, and then I started working with them. Then it just turned into snowball effect, recommendations, and then to where I am now, which is
Who was the first guy that you started working with, and who was that?
Just local fighters, really. And then I started working with a couple rising stars in Perth, and then probably the first Thai fighter, known Thai fighter in the UK was Bendon.
Yeah.
So Bendon reached out, and then...
Well, that's where I got word about you when Nathan came on this podcast.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said, listen, I still get to eat ice cream on a night time, I was like, listen, get me his details.
But you know what? I remember you mentioning me about 18 months ago on the podcast about, he said he was looked in great shape and he's eating ice cream. And I was like, no way. And then, it's crazy to be on now.
So you work now, so I'll say you've worked your way from down here,
Yeah.
and now you work with fighters from One Championship,
Yeah.
UFC, the top guys in UK Muay Thai, don't you?
Yeah.
How did you build up to that then? Where did it all...
I think it just went from like you do a good job in
Yeah.
any sort of walk of life, and then you get recommended, and then start to work with Nathan. People started seeing the results of Nathan. Nathan was doing well, and then more people come to me in the Thai scene, in the UK Thai scene, and then it just went from that snowballing effect to now I've got about eight people in One Championship at the moment.
Yeah,
So it's pretty.
nice.
Yeah.
So we were just discussing this off camera a little bit back, like the information that we have access to now, especially with guys like yourself, for fighters and that. When I was coming up, it was all just like trial and error, and it would do. As we get into this, and I start telling you some of the ridiculous shit, you probably won't even want to talk to me anymore, mate. You'll be fucking disgusted with me when we get into some shit I've done over the years and other guys from our gym have done. Just how important is it, because the differences I've seen, how important is it to make sure your nutrition is right in a fight camp? Because I know there's a lot of guys, like what I used to do when I was younger, I just used to get away with eating whatever I wanted and stuff, but wouldn't be realising that I'm fucking probably knocking about 20% off my fucking performance and that.
Well, the thing what you said about you were just winging it for years, but the research in like combat sports is relatively new.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to look for recommendations for, I was going to say soccer, and shows how long I've been in Australia, but a football player, you'd type in on Google and find loads of like solid research about carbohydrate recommendations, protein, etc., fluid. But with a fighter, there's fuck all really.
Yeah.
There's just fuck all studies out there now. There's more emergent studies out, examining effects like water flow and hot bath and stuff like that. So now that research is there for people, and now people don't have to wing the nutrition, because there's out there, and there's people like myself who are giving the nutrition advice. And as you said, you mess up your nutrition plan, that can affect your performance. The whole fight camp, like under fueling, your training's affected. You're doing bigger weight cuts, and it leads into fight day because you're not fueling enough in your post weigh and refuel. It's just like a domino effect of the whole fight camp.
Honestly, when we were younger, we used to have a big show in Leeds at the Leeds Town Hall, and we'd all fight in there. And there were a few times where we had to weigh in on the day, and McDonald's were across the road. We would weigh in. We'd fucking weigh in. We'd go to McDonald's, and then we'd fight about 3 hours later, mate.
Yeah.
That's the type of shit that we just didn't have any idea what we were doing whatsoever. I said to you earlier as well, like, instead of having like one of them energy gels or something like that, I might have a fucking can of Red Bull and a Snickers or a Mars bar or something. But that's the type of shit we were doing back then, because none of us just knew, and we were just winging it, and like it were.
Well, the thing as well, it's like passed down. Oh, so and so did it this way. Oh, and so did it this way. They made the weight great. Like John from the gym 30 times, and he made weight every time, but did he do it optimally? And then just get that just gets passed down then. Yeah. And I can definitely understand, like years ago there's nothing, but now luckily with like the UFC PI doing research and stuff, it's definitely an emerging field. Like 15-20 years, there's going to be like so many studies out there, and like people can just go on the internet and look for them studies.
Yeah, there's a lot of like people out there, like there's loads of crazy myths about making weight, and you should do this and you should do that. What are some of the biggest mistakes a fighter can make, like in not just his weight cut, but like in the lead up to a fight? And like, what are some of these myths that just need eradicating? Because there's loads in there.
I think one of the main things, like going back to the start, is like, firstly, a lot of fighters fight at the wrong weight class. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I'll have messages on Instagram. Oh, a fighter 70 kilos, walk around 85. Okay, why'd you fight at 70? Oh, because my coach told me to. Okay, well, that doesn't really tell me a lot. So, like, a lot of fighters are walking around way too big for the weight class, way too lean for the weight class. And then that leads into the effects of they're doing big weight cuts. Because I'll give an example. Say, fighter today's walking around at 80 odd kilos, fighting at 70, and he's got 8% body fat. And then this fighter be same weight, but he's got 15%. Who's gonna find it easier to make the weight? The person who's got a higher body fat, because there's weight to pull from. You're really lean. Where the fuck are you getting that weight from? So then that leads into the thing of doing the too big a weight cut, and then you start the fight camp and went, right, I've got to really fucking starve myself here. So they cut the carbs out straight away, reduce the portion sizes, and then they're just training 2-3 times a day, and then they're just knackered all the fight camp. And I always stress it's really important for a fighter to get a body composition assessment, like what we've just done.
Yeah,
then.
I've just seen you do it there with 2 of our younger fighters from Bad Company Gym, but you did this to me before one of my fight camps as well, and like I say, stuff like that. It's amazing because
Yeah.
you know exactly how much you can lose, where you can get to safely,
Yeah.
how much water you're holding, all
Yeah.
that type of stuff, don't you?
Well, also, just long term, like, yeah, you can make that weight short term, couple of fights, but just doing that over and over again, it's just going to knacker the body. And I've had conversations with coaches where, especially when I first started off and I wasn't really known, people like, coaches told me to fuck off. Like,
Who's this cunt? Get off!
Who's this guy with his pen and pad, the nutrition degree? Like, oh, who's he But now, like, people tend to listen to me. But yeah, it's having that difficult conversation. Like, I've had a few where it's like, look, like, long term, this isn't the optimal weight class for you. Doing it a couple of times, great, but you know, if you're only young, it's just not good.
So you were just doing this. What were the
body composite. So it's like ultrasound.
So you were just doing that then with Ferguson Finlay. Fergus, he's only 16, and he's a very, very talented, dangerous young fighter. So like back then we didn't have any of this, and we didn't have no S&C, and we didn't have any of that. It was go down the gym, go running, hit the pads, spar, clinch. That were it.
Yeah.
But like I'm watching him now. Like he took his top off then to do the test on it. And he's a fucking little beast. He's like, do you know what I mean? Like these kids now that are coming up, they've got all this science to help them. They're all doing S&C to complement alongside the training. The next generation of fighters are going to be fucking killers, aren't they? Really?
Yeah,
with all this going on.
Well, especially with like a football player in your team, they've got a physio, they've got an S&C coach, they've got a nutritionist, they've got like a whole team around them. Like for a fighter, that doesn't tend to usually happen. But now, like with yourself, you've got an SC coach, you work with me, like you've got that whole team around you now where you're ticking all them boxes.
Obviously, I'm injured at the minute as well. I've just had my knee surgery and stuff. I'm following your plan still, what you've given me. And I've been sat around on the fucking sofa for 2 weeks, hardly doing any sort of training. I'm just getting myself up and about it again now. But I haven't hardly put any weight on. That's just following like your plan and stuff like that. Obviously, if I wouldn't have had that guideline there to like put me anywhere, I'd have been fucking sat there like Ricky Tomlinson in fucking Royal Family, big fat red nose.
Also, if you haven't got anything to follow, then that leads, and then especially when you're injured as well, psychologically you're bored, and then you tend to binge it. But then if you've got like a plan to follow, it's just that path. You've got something to go towards.
Yeah. What would you let's break down like a fight camp for fighters and stuff here. What would you say, like, because there's some fighters who cut like horrendous amount of weights. They jump up like 15 to 20 kilos over. What would you say is a safe or an acceptable weight to be going up in between fights? Say if I fight at 65, what's acceptable for a 65 kilo fighter to go up to, would you say?
You typically don't really want to be over, say, like 15-60% of your body weight, but that's like a recommended number. Typically that doesn't happen in a lot of cases, but you can break like the fight camp into 4 different parts. So like phase 1, say you've got the fight announced, you've got 8 to 10 weeks, and you're walking around, for example, at 75 kilos, you're fighting at 65. Okay, that first phase is the chronic weight loss stage, so that's the loss of body weight through body tissue, fat and muscle. So then we want you the sweet spot, and most fighters like 8% out of the fight weight, 1 week out. So we work out the numbers, right? There's 8% from your fight weight, we divide how many weeks you got to how many kilos you need to lose. So we just tailor the plan around that. And then it comes to fight week, 8% out. And then we do the acute weight loss strategies where we reduce the carbs, fibre, salt. And then phase 3 will be the post-weigh and refuel. Phase 4 will be the fight day nutrition. So it's all splitting it up into phases where this is where it goes into the conversation we said before about, in your body composition. If you're way too lean, then you're dieting too aggressively, then you're cutting too much weight. That 8% is now moved up to 10 to 12% on fight week, and then you're doing big water cuts, and we can go into the dangers of big water cuts too.
Well, I was going to say, like, the damage, like, say if you're losing, say, 15, 20 kilos, like some guys do in a fight camp, if you're doing that 3 or 4 times a year, that's going to be so damaging on your like metabolism and body overall.
See, it gets suppressed. So it's a thing called adaptive thermogenesis. So when you diet, your body goes into energy saving mode. So all the processes in your body go down. So your metabolism, your resting metabolic rate is basically the calories you need to keep the light switched on. That drops. The digestion your food, the energy it takes to digest food, that drops. You don't burn as many calories when you exercise, so the whole body goes into energy saving mode. So then when you...
So everything's just going to get harder and harder and harder.
So when you finish the fight and you go, fuck it, I've one loss, whatever, let's go on a big fucking holiday for a couple of weeks. Put the weight back on. The body hasn't got time to readjust to that. So then you put on the weight. Your metabolism hasn't restored back to normal values, and then you put on a little bit more body fat, and then say the start of the last camp you were 75 kilos, fight 65. Then the next fight camp, you're 76 now, and then it goes up. Only like half a kilo, and then it just progressively gets harder and harder. And like I always stress so much to fighters, when you finish the fight, like get back, have a couple of days off, but try and get back to something. And I always remember the quote. There's a doctor I work with in Perth. He's like a hydration expert, and he was on a podcast and he mentioned about like the fighters finishing the fight, fucking off, putting loads of weight on, but you wouldn't see like a marathon runner going, the Olympics is in 6 months, best start training, get into shape. It's a continuous cycle of training adaptation, muscle 100%. Adaptations. So I think,
and also alongside that as well, it's not just about, for a fighter, not just about just keeping your weight down and stuff. You should be learning all year round as well as like being in the gym. Yeah. I think on a fight camp, you're working towards one fighter.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you've got to work on all your different things to up your game that little bit. So if you just disappear, you go into a fight camp, you go, boom, up there, you're there.
Yeah.
But then if you disappear for a month or 2 months and then come back for your next fight camp, you're going up there, down there, up there, down there, and you're never getting past that level.
It becomes a starter, it becomes a fat camp.
Yeah,
the first few weeks in a fat camp. So that's not like, you're always going to put on a little bit of weight post, right? Yeah, that you're going to revert back to your typical walking around weight because your body has this kind of set point. But then people just, like, I think some fighters think it's a bit of like a funny thing as well.
You see people like fucking Paddy, what he's doing in UFC and that, they're like putting all that weight on.
Yeah.
It's like a bit of a badge of honour for some of them. I can cut fucking 20 kilos, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's and it's just the education. Like we've done I've done a couple of like reverse diets. I've done it with Nathan, one of the lads Jordan I work with. It's basically when they finish the fight, we like just slowly increase the calories over like the course of a couple of months. So then the body's metabolism is sort of, it's probably a bad word to say, but like restores all the body again. And they don't put as much weight on. When they get the announcement for the fight, they're good to go. They're ready, not like, oh fucking hell, I'm 4 kilos heavier now and I'm a fat cunt, so like I need to start again. But it's I can, at the same time, I can understand where, psychologically you've trained so much and then you've won or lost the fight. It can be hard to sort of get back in the zone again, but it's just the education side of things.
Going back to that thing we were just on about then about the metabolism, like you can just like fucking ruin it basically by having these big cuts and that. You sent your friend to do one of the tests to me. I forgot his name. What were it? You sent him to Bad Company.
Oh, Jack.
Yeah, Jack. That's it. I nearly said Jamie. Yeah. Jack. Yeah, he came and did that. And I remember he saying to me like when he did it, he went, "Oh, how many fights have you had?" And I said, "Oh, 120." And he went, "Fucking hell." He was like, "Yeah, your metabolism might be ruined if you've cut that weight at the time." And he said he was surprised, like for someone my age, it was still decent. But what did happen to me, up until I were about 25, I was just fucking, like I said, I was winging it. I was eating what I wanted, and I was still making weight just because I trained so hard.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed running. I was doing massively long runs. I loved training. So I was just getting away with it because I was still young. My metabolism was burning fuel all the time and stuff. But then when I got to 25, it just stopped.
Yeah.
And there were 2 or 3 fights when I was between 25 and 26 where I missed weight. Only by about a pound or 2 pounds, but it happened about 2-3 times in a row. And there were big fights. One of them were a tournament for really big money, and I missed weight by 2 pounds. And half a kilo. It was 1 pound that was.
Yeah.
And then I fucking couldn't. I won the fight, but they wouldn't let me qualify to the final to win the big money and stuff. So I lost out, stuff like that. And again, it was just trial and error of me like fucking thinking, oh, I can just do what I did last time, and then my body just stopped working how it did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a few stories like that as I was coming up. So like, you will get to a stage, all these young fighters who think it's easy now, where the metabolism does start to slow.
Yeah, and I've had instances where a female fighter's signed up with me, and they've done continuous weight cycling across the career, and we're struggling to get the weight off with 1,000 calories. Like that's when you know you fucking you fucked up a little bit along the way, and then it's having that difficult conversation, saying, right, what's more important, your health or your career? We need a couple of months off of this diet, and we need to restore a few things in place. And it goes back to the same thing about education. People are just winging it themselves, or the coach will tell them to go and fucking run the sweatsuit around the block, and it's just because you got to think what your career is important, but what what about post-career?
Yeah,
Your body's just knackered, kidneys are fucked.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's so many things to think about.
Right, let's get some knowledge dropped out there now then.
Okay.
What would your top tips for a final fight week be? So you're fighting on the Saturday, from Monday to Friday when you're weighing. What would your main tips for fighters be here?
Okay, so say you've had the solid fight camp, you've been dropping the weight chronically, as you mentioned, like losing your body fat, and you're 8% out, you've been having lots of carbs, fibre. First thing you do is you reduce carbohydrates. So carbohydrates stored in the body as glycogen in the muscle and liver, some in the brain too. So with every gram of glycogen, it's bound to 3 grams of water. So if you're having quite a lot of carbohydrates throughout fight camp, you just drop the carbs. You can drop maybe like 2-3% of your body weight. But then that goes into caveat where a lot of fighters in fight camp just take the carbs out 2 or 3 weeks before, so you can't use that strategy. Also,
you need them a bit close. Like you need as long as possible. You need your carbs.
Right up until 1 week. So around 5 to 7 days, it's shown that reducing carbs around like 30 to 50 grams a day can reduce your body mass by around 2-3%. But there's 2 ways of doing it. You can reduce your carbs, but then you can also perform additional exercise to deplete your carb stores. And then the second strategy would be reducing fibre. So a lot of fibre gets undigested in the gut. So it doesn't pass through, so you don't shit. So literally reducing the fibre, like
that when cutting out your fruit, your veg, fruit,
any kind
like
of vegetables and stuff like that. Anything like brown rice, brown bread, that kind of thing. And then say cut fibre to like less than 10 grams a day, you can lose around 1-2% of your body mass. But that's in the same thing as the carbohydrates. You've got to be having lots of fruits and vegetables throughout fight camp. And then the third one would be sodium. So salt usually follows water in the body. So if you're having, you probably noticed you've been to Chinese, and then you wake up the next day, you're like
tits are down near your knees, and you're like, hey, what's happened to me here?
You're like 2 kilos heavy. That's one from the carbohydrates, the water association with the carbs that you've had.
Same with Thai food and that.
Thai food.
You said to me, didn't you? Because when I fought on one, I said, the Thai restaurant, and he said, make sure they do not cook it in salt. And I said to him, no salt and everything. They looked at me like, no salt. They couldn't believe it because they just blather it in everything. But I were on boiled fish, and I were having a big fish and a big massive omelette. Yeah. And I was so surprised. I was full every time I were eating. Yeah. And I was never going hungry in fight week, and the weight just dropped off like that. Yeah.
So like when you reduce the carbs, fibre, salt, with salt, you can typically lose, like, it depends on your salt intake anyway. So when you notice when you were in Thailand and you were fucking having soy sauce in every meal, and then as soon as you cut that out, you notice the drop.
Yeah. I said to you, I'm still a bit heavy, and you went, don't worry, fight week it'll drop off. And I was just so shocked that I went from like 70 next minute, like 2 days, 68, just like that, just from changing one meal basically. Yeah, so
that's like all them 3 main strategies are all important. Like, you've got to be getting that fight at that meal. That nutrition plan right up until fight week for them strategies to be effective, because you're not having fibre, you're not having carbs. It comes to fight week, you're 8% out. Where the fuck are you getting that weight from? Where are you pulling that weight from? That's when you're sitting in the sauna and doing big weight cuts. Also, finally, you could do a water load. Water loading's one of them. Some people don't like, you don't particularly like water loading when I mentioned to you.
No.
Yeah. So like water loading.
I always drinking a lot of water, but like is it 7-8 litres and all that? I've always just thought.
So with water loading, there's like, I've heard so many shocking stories about water loading. Like, I water load for 2 weeks. I had like 14 litres a day. And I'm like, who the fuck told you that? Or followed something online.
You fucking drowned yourself.
And there's a study that literally a couple of years ago, they had 15 grapplers, I think about 10-15 grapplers come into the lab. They had a diet that mimicked fight week, so low carb, fibre. And they had 3 days of water loading, say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 100 mil per kilogram of body mass. So say you're 70 kilos, 7 litres for 3 days. And then on the Thursday, just around a litre. And they lost around 2.5%
so
of the body.
3 days you need to
3 days, yeah.
There you go.
3 days.
There's so many fighters out there like you instead of doing it for, like, I know quite a lot will start on bang on like a week straight out, and they'll be drinking 8, 9, 10 litres of water all week.
And the thing is, 3 days. 3 days, that's all you need, 3 days. And yeah, some of the stories I've heard, or even when I've signed up people, like, we'll probably speak about this, like, about shocking stories, but like, water load for 10, 15 days, like, why? Like, that must be absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Like,
surely when you're water loading for that long as well, won't you be fucking flushing all goodness at you and everything?
Well, this can lead into the thing of you can actually fluid overload, and you could potentially die from fluid overload. There's been things with like marathon runners where they've just drank loads of fluid, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to rehydrate," and they've overloaded and you can die. So it's actually quite, if you're drinking 10+ liters, that gets quite dangerous. So the water in 3 days is all you need. And then say you've done that. Say, as you said before, about you had 8% to lose on fight week. You've lost 5% through doing them strategies. Yeah. Then the final bit is just the water cut. The hot bath, sauna, and 3%. You could lose that in a hard session. You probably use that in Thailand when you're fucking training for a couple of hours. So
let's get onto this then. This the weight cut, because you must have seen some and heard some horror stories.
Yeah,
I can tell you a few horror stories. I remember. I'm gonna drop Andy in it here because I remember one time Andy were fighting for a title in France. They were fighting a French guy who was fighting at 53 kilos. The weigh-in was Friday morning. We were flying out to France on the Thursday evening. On Wednesday, we're staying at my house before we went to airport. So I went, do you want to just go to cinema and watch a film so you're not fucking sat in the house thinking about food, blah, blah. We went to cinema. He got a big fucking bag of popcorn and a big packet of fucking Revels. And I said, "What are you doing?" He went, "I'm not having no tea. This is what we were working with back then, mate. I'm not having no tea." I said, "Hey," I said, "What are you fucking doing, mate?" I said, "You've got 6 kilos to lose." So he ate them all. It finished.
Is that so? That the day before weight?
Yeah, day before weigh-in. So this is on the Wednesday night. Okay. He ate it all.
Yeah.
By the time we flew to France, he had 7 kilos to lose from Thursday to Friday. Don't forget how small Andy is.
That's a
fighting
lot.
at 53 kilos.
That's like.
So we were up in mountains in France. I don't even know what city we were in, to be honest. So I went, right, get sweatsuit on. You're going to have to go running. So I'm sat outside some little cafe having a glass of wine and that. And he's running up and down the street in sweatsuit, losing weight. He took sweatsuit off. He'd lost about 4 kilo. He had 3 kilo to go still. And he was fucked. I said, "Mate, I'm going to have to take you to the sauna." And he was going, "Oh, God." So I got him in sauna. And he would try to get out, and I just had to fucking shut the door. And mate, you can't come out. And he was proper banging on it. And that just turned around and he were absolutely fucked. I fucking, I'm going to have to go in and get him here. I got in and dragged him out. Took him to weigh-in. He was still a kilo over. So they put sweatsuit back on him and we were running across this like top of his grass verge, and he couldn't even run in a straight line, mate. He was that fucked. He was just wobbling all over the place. Shit. And I just had to go to promote. I went, right, that's it, mate. He's done now. He's done. But he could barely stand up.
Yeah.
His vocal cords had gone all fucked. So he talked like that because he just fucking, all his voice was that dry and that. Yeah. I've never heard anyone's voice change that much from a weight cut. He was fucked. Luckily, the guy who was fighting were a bit shit, so he just destroyed him. Andy battered him in first round, just wiped him straight out. But that was like one of the most horrendous ones I've seen. But I've fucking done loads of stupid shit like that. Like I said to you before, like not knowing how to do it properly and not cutting out the salt in fight week. I've started fight week at fucking 4 kilo over, and then got to weigh-in day and ended up being 5 kilo over, not from knowing what to do with my diet. What you must have seen some horrendous things. What's the worst you've seen?
Luckily, I haven't seen any in like that I've dealt with in person, but I've seen somewhere. Especially, I went to Thailand a couple of months ago. I had one of my fighters, Celeste Hansen. She was fighting on Road to One tournament.
I like watching Celeste.
Yeah, she's
good for exciting nice to watch. Yeah.
So
she won that tournament.
She won. Yeah. So I was there for the Road to One final, and I just remember seeing like 10, 15 lads just running around the block, sweatsuits, the drill, all around Lumpini Stadium. And then there was a guy, and he was literally like, he was curled up on the ball on the floor. There was like no one around him. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, he was like shaking. I had to like go up to him and go like, "Is everything right?" And he just looked like a ghost. Yeah. And it's crazy because it's you've heard the stories of people have died from doing the weight cuts. And like, I remember when I first got to Perth, there was a girl who was like 17 and she got told to she had to cut weight, got told to run the sweatsuit around the block and collapsed and died.
Fuck.
Yeah.
17.
Yeah, 17. Yeah, I don't know if the coach got done for, but that was a big thing when I first got to Perth. And
that's terrible, isn't it? Bloody hell.
It's crazy to see, like, I think the hydration kind of thing is such a complicated area and people don't know, like, the ins and outs of it. I can give you a bit of a rundown on, like, body water if you want.
Yeah, go on.
So basically, you're around 65% body water. So body water stored in 2 different compartments. So the intracellular fluid, which is where most of the water's stored. So that's fluid like in your cells, in your brain cells, kidneys, muscle. And then the second part is the extracellular fluid. So that's fluid in and around them cells. give it a bit of cushion. And then there's fluid in the plasma, which is in the blood. So when you initially start to sweat, when you're doing a water cut, you pull water fluid from the blood. But as the more dehydrated you get, more fluid is getting pulled from inside the cell. So your brain, kidney cells. So then what ends up happening is people weigh in, don't rehydrate properly. They'll then go to a fight, still be dehydrated because they haven't followed any kind of protocol. And you've probably seen it where the guy's just been hit. And you think, how's he been knocked out with that?
I've seen it loads over years.
It's called like cerebral spinal fluid, so there's fluid in the brain.
Yeah.
So that gets depleted when you're doing big water cuts. So if you don't rehydrate and then you get hit and then the risk of concussion.
I watched someone on one championship when I won one at Shaw's. I fought on and I was sat ringside for it, and I'd watched him fucking kill himself for like 2 days. This one back when one championship used to make you weigh in twice. I'd watched him struggle like fuck both days.
Yeah.
And I thought, he's not going to have any energy. Mate got knocked out of a jab.
Yeah, that's
a
it.
jab.
Yeah.
He was literally just pop.
Yeah.
And he was out like twisted up, staff all mashed on floor. I was like, wow. But
Well, people seem to think, if weighed in, sweet, I'll just drink the fluid and it's just going to go back into it. It goes through gradients in the body.
Yeah.
It doesn't just sit. It doesn't just go straight back
that's
to where
why
it
when you
comes from.
start like rushing stuff down, you start to feel poorly after.
Yeah.
Let's get to that quick. Just quickly go on that.
Yeah.
What are your top tips? If you've just done a hard weight cut, you've weighed in, you've med weight. What are your top tips for after the weigh in here?
So firstly, the main focus is getting the fluid back in. Fluid over food the first couple of hours. So say you've lost a kilo during the weight cut, you times that by 1.5. So lose a kilo, drink 1.5 litres of fluid.
Fucking hell, so I'm sorry to just interrupt you here, but if you've done a massive weight cut there, then you're going to...
Yeah.
Say if you've done 5-6 kilos,
Yeah.
you're going to have to drink a shit ton of water, right, before you even start eating.
And also as well, a big mistake with fighters do, they weigh in, go boom, just drink water. Water's probably the worst rehydration drink. I won't say around, but it's really bad. Because basically what happens is, when you've done a water cut, you sweat, you lose fluid and electrolytes in your sweat, but you lose more fluid than electrolytes. So then the concentration of your blood of electrolytes it's very concentrated. So if you just put the water back in without the electrolytes, you're diluting the blood, so the kidneys go, shit, we're overloading with fluid here. So you end up pissing that fluid out. So a rule of thumb for any fighters, like weighing in, they've done a big weight cut, and you need a piss within half an hour now, you've done it wrong.
Yeah.
So always adding electrolytes to your drink composition. So with the fluid side of the thing, first hour, get either like it's a hydrolyte diol. I always get confused with the two in Australia and England. Hydrolyte, diolite. Yeah. So either one of them or electrolyte powder. You can get like tablets to put in your drink. Have like a litre the first hour. And then in terms of carbohydrate recommendations, so typical sports nutrition guidelines are a carbohydrate load of 10 grams per kilogram body mass. So say you started fight week at 70, you're fighting at 65, for example, around 700 grams of carbs. And then people probably think, fucking hell, that's a lot of carbs to fit in that post-weighing period. But that's when the importance of what carbs you actually get in. Like, you can't have 700 grams of potato because you'd be absolutely...
I'd be still in bed after you need to go fight, can't move, mate, fucked.
You'd be absolutely fucked. Yeah. So it's all about getting like really fast digestible carbohydrates in. Like, this is where the crossover between sports nutrition and health sort of gets mixed. Like you're recommending jellies, sporting, but they're just the ones that are going to get in your system quick. When I said to you when you were in one, when you were looking for when I was telling you to get look for Gatorade,
I went around every shop in Singapore. I can't find it.
So it's like getting them really fast digesting carbs in you. So it's all about, like I always say, like the post-weigh-in plan is just as important as the whole fight camp weight cut.
Well, there's no point doing a great fight camp, great diet, and then getting to that point and then fucking it, is it? Yeah.
And also with big thing what a lot of fighters do, they weigh in, go to Nando's, get a pizza. You don't really want to be having anything high in fat and fibre because that'll slow down digestion.
Right.
So you probably noticed when you've weighed in before and you've had a big meal, you've been like,
feel like you're fucked for hours.
Yeah, you're like, fucking, I can't eat now. So then that displaces your recovery strategy because you don't want to eat anything.
I've done that so many times when I was younger, mate, honestly,
So then you're not fully recovering, you're not fully getting them carbohydrate recommendations in, you're not fully getting the fluid recommendations in. So then you're going into fight day underfueled. So, as I said, like that post-weighing period is, you need to be on it.
So, just weighed in, what would say you've weighed in at 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah.
what would be your meals for that day then? What would you say? What are a good meal or two good options that you could have for that day that are going to be sensible?
So you weigh in. Firstly, you get that fluid down. You say around a litre of fluid and electrolytes. Next hour, having something like a couple of sports drinks, some jellies, maybe some like cereal, like Cocoa Pop, something like light. And then a couple hours later, having like a standard like chicken rice dish, no veg, even like something like a Nando's chicken breast with rice, really simple. And then between having more sports drinks, jelly, snacks, and then having pretty much the same meal again in the evening, like anything white rice, white pasta, lean meats like chicken, turkey, steak. Obviously, cut a little bit of fat off, so like just keeping that fat and fibre low. But in that 1 p.m. period, you can definitely get like 2-3 meals in. But then in between, you're having like your jellies, your snacks. Haribo's always a good one. Chocolate milk's always a recommended one. And then you can hit them recommendations. Just timing it right.
And what about the meal on fight day as your main meal? Would that be similar to the?
Yeah, like a carby meal, like chicken rice dish. And this is the thing with fight day. A lot of fighters have got like routine rituals. Like I've had instances where I don't eat much on fight day. Well, and you're trying to do like the nutrition side thing. Well, you need to at least get something in you, like a good breakfast, like porridge, something like that. If you're fighting in the evening, you can easily get 2-3 meals in that day. But it's a tricky one for me because I always try and just what the fighter's used to. I don't want to introduce we'll have this or have that, and you haven't had that before. But always like rule of thumb: good breakfast, good lunch, and then a couple of snacks in between on fight day.
Right, let's just change the subject a little bit here because there's a lot of controversy about this. I'm sure you'd probably know what I'm going to ask you now. The One Championship weight protocol.
Okay.
There's obviously been fucking so many fighters recently missing weight on this and like fights getting cancelled and changed and all the rest of it. What are your thoughts on their protocol? Are you a fan or are you not a fan?
I could go quite deep into this.
Oh, there we go. Then let's go. Okay. Let's get down this rabbit hole.
So this is something I'm very, very against because the problem with the hydration, it's given a simple answer to a complicated topic. Like urine hydration tests are not a good indicator of hydration because a lot of these tests were designed in hospital settings, not designed for a fighter who's cut a lot of weight and then rehydrated again. So I could give a bit of rundown like what the urine test is. Go. So basically, the test that one uses is called the urine specific gravity test. So a urine specific gravity test is piss in a cup and the basically put a dipstick in called a refractometer, and it measures the density of urine compared to the density of water. So urine is around 95% water, around 5% waste products, basically byproducts of metabolism. So the main ones are urea, creatinine, uric acid. The thing is, when you sweat and you're doing a water cut, you lose water and electrolytes, so then the body releases a hormone to conserve water. So then when you piss, the concentration of your piss will therefore be more because it's got less water pissing out. So that's all well and good saying that's a good hydration measure. But the problem with urine is it's influenced by so many different factors. So your body weight can influence your USG score. So guys with a large amount of muscle mass break down more protein in the body. So that comes out in the urine as urea. So there's been studies that have shown that rugby players have failed the USG test actually being hydrated, so they provided false positives. Right. So that provides go back a bit, going down a rabbit hole here. So the diet also too. So a typical diet on fight week, high protein, reduce the carbs. If you're having more protein in your diet, you're breaking down more protein in your body. That's coming out in your piss as urea. Right. So that increases your USG value. Yeah. So there's been studies that high protein diet, people have higher resting USG things. I'm going down.
Keep it going.
Also, if you're doing any type of high intensity activity, so say you wanted to cut the weight and you wanted to I'm going to smash, like the One Championship room, smashing the pads, getting a bit of a sweat on. You're creating little bits of muscle damage in your muscle. So one of the proteins is called titin. So that comes out into your urine. So that will increase your USG value. So I can guarantee, I won't say guarantee, I could put money on that people have failed that test. Not down to being dehydrated, but down to the body size. It's typically when you see the guys who are bigger guys. Yeah. And it's it just creates more problems and solutions, in my opinion, because there's so many factors that influence, and I've been down since the one championship I was in. Like, we had a thing, but like Haggerty missed the hydration. I went down. I've been down a 2-month rabbit hole into it.
You said that you'd watched him do everything by the book.
Everything by the book, and just some people. If you got 100 people off the street, and they all did a USG test, probably about 50% of them would fail because just everyone's different. So to give, and also the cut-off point. So I mentioned before about the guy I work with in Perth, Dr. Oliver Barley. He wrote a paper on hydration tests in athletes, and he even says the cut-off point for one, it's been plucked out of nowhere. It's not. It's like where's that value come from?
I'll tell you what was the fucking hardest part when a couple of years ago when we had to do it 2 days in a row, mate.
Yeah.
That was horrific because you weigh in on the Wednesday, then you got to do it all hydrated, then you have to do it again on the Thursday.
Yeah.
So when you've done that first weigh-in, your brain's automatically going, yeah, you've made weight now, and you need to go eat something and replenish yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
But not too much where you can't make weight again the next day.
Yeah.
I think that was too much.
Well, as I said, a urine test is just not a good indicator. If you wanted to do it properly, you'd be taking multiple measurements. So you'd take the urine, you'd take the body weight, you'd do bloods as well. But they're not gonna. There's 30 fighters on the card, not gonna be drawing blood, and then it takes time to test it. So it's creating more problems and solutions. There's actually there's actually a really good video on this that Dr. Oliver Barley did on YouTube. It's called MMA on Point. It's about the problems of weight cutting. He really goes into the science behind it. But also the problem with the one stuff is you're manipulating body weight, you're drinking fluids, you're putting fluid, but that can run the risk of messing up your electrolyte balance, which could lead in, as I mentioned before, about diluting your blood, which could lead into death in some cases. So I love one, like the fight, like I've got a lot of fighters in one, what they do, the show, unbelievable, but the hydration thing is just...
Well, it has caused a lot of problems and a lot of controversy with like loads of people saying...
And I think also not many people know, not many people think, oh, so-and-so failed hydration, and they don't know the reasons behind it. Like, there's so many, as I said, there's so many factors, and it's...
For me, why I've never been too bothered about it is, one, because I've never had any problems with it. Yeah. But it's just for... What I've enjoyed is not having to fight any giants because no one's doing massive weight cuts. Yeah. And no one's killing himself down. To be fair, for me, I enjoy it because it makes me fucking diet properly as well. Obviously, even before I started working with you, I'm thinking, right, got way in hydrated here. I've only one way to do it. Fucking diet right as close to weight as possible. Yeah. And it just give me a bit of an extra kick up arse to not fucking snack on shit and stuff like that. Yeah. But like I said, I've never had any problems with it and stuff. But like you do say, there's fighters who I've seen be fresh all week, be on weight all week, and then somehow miss weight.
Well, that's the thing we'd have actually won't matter. Like, everything was absolutely to the point.
You said he was on weight 2 days before,
absolutely to the point. And like, that's influenced by also continuous weight cutting as well can affect the filtration of your kidneys. So if you're continuously weight cutting, that can also affect your USG, even if you're hydrated. So it's like when I was that was a very stressful situation, and it's not, and it's also there's been studies that have shown that people in comparison to UFC. One championship fighters, the weight misses are pretty much the same. So it's not actually solving any kind of problem. It's just creating another hurdle. And fighters are always going to try and come up with a way to cheat or manipulate a test. Yeah. And it's just, as I said about the water balance, many people know about the thing where you drink the fluid or you hold the piss. That can run the risk of affecting your electrolyte balance. And that's when you're going into dangerous territory there.
You just mentioned weight cuts in other things here. I've wrote something down on here. Yeah. In Bellator this week, I'm not sure if you saw it, 2 fighters got suspended and from their weight division and told you got to move up and that's it. Henry Corrales and Alejandro Lara, they both got suspended and forced to move up to the next weight division. So, I think it was Corrales weighed in at 145 pounds on the weigh-in, and on the night of the fight, he was 172.2. How the fuck has he managed to get up that? Yeah. That's nearly 30 pounds. Yeah. How has he managed that?
It's like 18% of his body weight.
Yeah, 18%. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I suppose it's a good thing that Bellator are actually on it and they're checking the weight, but think how often that happens in just like regional fights or just the local fights where people just piling the weight on. There's actually been a couple of studies that have shown that the amount of weight you regain post-fight doesn't actually determine your success in the ring cage. Yeah. So I think people naturally think, oh, I'm going to be bigger. It's naturally advancing. Well, in theory it is, but it doesn't necessarily determine your success.
Do you think... Is that dangerous putting that? I don't get how...
I think a lot of it is just that they've had the carbohydrates, probably loads of food, that water association. They've probably been to had salty food, so they just holding on to a lot more water. They won't be...
For someone that small, though, that's fucking pretty impressive, to be fair.
I think the
145 to 172, that's insane.
I think the guy Aljamain Sterling, who fights is the bantamweight champion. I think he cuts quite a bit and walks into the octagon like a lot heavier than what he wore his fight weight.
The thing is, though, if you've been told you got right, you can't fight at 145 anymore. He's now got to fight 10 pounds heavier, so that's going to be fucking... You're going to be fighting some giants
and
now.
That's a thing in MMA. That's a big difference in weight. The
difference between a 65 and a 70.3 fighter, it's huge.
Yeah,
it
massive.
Is huge.
Yeah, massive. Because I had a guy who was on the UFC in Singapore, and he fights a flyweight, and this is probably maybe down to me not watching him enough, but the hotel had all you can eat breakfast buffet. Did the cut. Next day he's 18% over his fight weight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is.
And his coach he just went overload in the breakfast buffet.
But that's another thing I wonder as well. They weigh you after the fights now, and you're not allowed to put more. Is it more than 10%?
I'm not a big fan of that either.
Yeah, I don't like that one
because the thing is,
it stresses you out thinking, oh, can I eat this? Shall I not? Do you know what I mean?
Well, this also goes into the fact that, let's be honest, everyone's cutting weight for one. Majority of people are cutting weight. So you're cutting weight and then you can only be 5% over. Yeah. You're affecting your recovery process. And so then it goes into the thing we mentioned about not being rehydrated going to rings. You're like, oh shit, I can't go over the 5% here because I'll get fined. Is it it's a fine, isn't it? And
I think 10%. So the first time you get one.
Yeah.
Second time 10%. Third time 20%, and you got to get up to the next weight division.
Well, that's it. So
what if you only miss it by 1% each time? Do you know what I mean? It's only minimal, isn't it? Well,
that's the thing. If that's on your mind, you're gonna be like, I'm really hungry, but I don't want to have that.
To be fair, it's just an extra stress that you don't need. I think that it's just fair enough if you come back in and you're doing what they've done, 20% over. Do you know what I mean? But not just an extra kilo, or it's not going to make too much of a difference.
It's just another hurdle, and you then watching. Oh, I'm really thirsty, or I want some food. Oh, I can't have that because I don't want to be over that 5%. It's just a bit, it's stupid in my opinion.
I'm going to ask you as well. Surely you've got quite a few fighters on your books that stress you out more than others. Not going to mention no names. Craven. What's the most surprising thing you've seen from someone on your book? Have you seen when they've gone into a camp and gone, Pete, I'm sorry, mate, I'm fucking 20 kilo over or something. Craven.
You rang me today. Don't mention me on the podcast. Don't mention me on the podcast.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, pal. Right, we've had loads of questions coming in from Instagram and stuff like that. So I'm gonna just fire a few of these out to you. First one. He's a friend of mine actually. Get his thoughts on a vegan diet for fighters. I'm like, mate, you need to get off that. You need to get off that shit because he's injured all the time. Yeah. And I swear it must be to do with his diet. Yeah. Because he's always fucked. He went, just ask him his thoughts on it. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think I've worked with vegan fighters. You just need to be a bit more on the ball because.
Honestly, mate, he's injured all the time.
Well, you can be deficient in quite a few things. The main thing, a lot of vegan athletes in general, you don't consume enough calories because a lot of the food is not very energy dense. So they're having lots of vegetables, beans, which are not very calorie dense. So they run the risk of not having enough calories to fuel for training. Also, protein intakes are not typically high compared to meat eaters. So it just takes a little bit more planning. Around the fight camp plan, so they do hit them targets with plant-based sources of protein, not as bioavailable. So in compared to meat-based, so basically how it absorbs in the body. So you need to mix up beans with
bang on it.
You just need to be bang on it and
perfected.
Create typically. Vegan vegetarian fighters have lower creatine stores, so supplement with creatine is something that you need to look into. Vitamin B12.
Well, we're going to come on to what this is one of the first questions here for supplements now. What are the best vitamins, supplements, etc. that a fighter needs to be taking in fight camp daily?
So my thing with vitamins and supplements, so vitamins, there's not really a lot of. I don't really place a lot of emphasis on that. If you're having lots of fruit and veg today, then you don't really need to have a multivitamin. It's okay to have, but a lot of the multivitamins, we end up pissing them out the majority of the time. Supplements, I try and stick it really simple. What I mentioned to you, like creatine.
Yeah,
like
I never used to take creatine, but you notice a difference with performance with creatine, definitely.
Most research supplement out there has benefits on muscle performance. Also, there's been studies that have shown that's good on brain health too, cognitive performance. I think I put a post out where, you know, the studies have shown that it can help cognitive performance in like fatigue-based tasks. So there was like a rugby skill-based task. And I give the scenario where if you're fighting the final rounds of a fight, you just need to be switched on just that little bit more. And you're taking a supplement which has got no side effects, which may help you by 1-2%. That could be that could be the difference of winning that round. I know it's a very it's easy said and done, but just something that's got no side effects is it's definitely a supplement to take for fighters. Also, beta-alanine. I remember I told you about the beta-alanine.
Fucking hell, mate. I thought I was dying when you give me that. You might have a little bit of a tingle, mate. I was fucking down like Michael J. Fox, mate. I was shaking all over. I was like, whoa, this ain't right, this.
Yeah,
but it is a weird feeling when you first start taking it, isn't it? So do you want to explain what that is, what it does, and what the feeling is?
Beta-alanine is what's called a buffer. So to break it down really simply, you're doing any type of high-intensity activity and you get that lactic acid build up in your muscle. What beta-alanine does acts like a buffer, so it delays the build-up of that so you can perform that little bit longer. The only downside to beta-alanine is a thing called paresthesia, which is pins and needles. Yeah. So typically when you first take it, you've never taken it before, and you take it's around 6 grams a day.
Mate,
your face feels all tingly.
Yeah. I was like shaking a little bit. I go, oh no, what have I done?
You said to me, like a face on fire.
Yeah.
And,
but it wears off though. That
it wears off, and like
body gets used to it.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
And you. To combat that, you can split it up into different doses. So like the recommended dose is 6 grams a day, but split it up into like 2-3 gram doses across the day. That can help performance like any type of high intensity activity. But the thing is with beta-alanine, you need to take it every day for 4 weeks to get it into your muscle. So you can't just take it spontaneously. Oh, I just took beta-alanine on the Monday and not take it till the Friday. You've got to take it every day. They're the two sort of performance supplements I recommend. In terms of health, like fish oils, they've got anti-inflammatory properties. Also, there's been like research on reducing inflammation and muscle damage in rugby players when they've done like collisions, obviously collision based. So that would work, similar to a fighter where you spar and stuff like that. You're getting that muscle damage. So fish oils too. But if you're having a lot of fish in your diet, there's not really that much fatty fish. Like if you're having fucking salmon every day, there's probably not much need to have it. But fish oils and protein powder. If you're not getting enough protein in your diet, whey protein is it's a supplement to get in.
With the creatine, do you want to stop taking that the closer to your fights you get? Because some people do.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a myth with the creatine. So
there's one of the myths we were going to dispel then, right?
Okay. So the creatine is they did a study and they loaded with creatine. So typically you do a loading phase of creatine, so 20 grams a day for 7 days. And this study showed things like back in the 80s that people's body water increased, or the weight increased. So then everyone's like, fuck, that's it, creatine holds on to water. It makes sense because when you take creatine, it's basically what's called osmotically active substance. So when you take it, it draws water into the muscle. So in theory, you think, okay, it increases total body water, but there's been studies now showing that people have taken it for 7 weeks, 10 weeks, and it doesn't increase water retention. And even if you did, it's very, very slight, like maybe a couple of 100 grams. But the way I look at it, if you're that concerned about a couple of 100 grams, potentially water weight, then you've got bigger issues to worry about your fight cat. You've got bigger issues. And also, water in the muscle is a good thing, even if it does go into, because water in the muscle helps the muscle grow. So even if it does, it's a good thing. Yeah. So, as I said, if you're that bothered about the creatine, that's probably the most common question I get on Instagram.
Really? Right.
Just stop taking creatine, so
right.
That's a creatine myth.
Next question.
Okay.
That was a creatine on there. But how does water loading work? You basically covered that earlier.
Yeah, so basically, it manipulates hormones to regulate fluid output.
And like what we said, 3 days is enough. And how many litres a day would you be drinking on that?
So around 100 mil per kilo. So what your weight is times 100.
Yeah, there you go. Easy work. And this one, some people can't. They say they can't afford to hire nutritionists, etc. Would you have any cost-effective tips just to help with a nice diet through your fight camp?
So I did actually post on this about fight camp on a budget. So you can like nowadays the cost of living's gone up and food prices gone up, but you can actually eat healthily, but you just got to look at different sources. So going to your local butchers to get a deal with meat, buy your meat in bulk, going to local like continental stores, get your spices, just buying things in bulk, frozen fruit and veg. So I probably didn't answer that question right.
Get to butchers.
You can eat healthy, but just like picking lean meats, good carb sources. And then Fight can be cheap if you're just buying things in bulk instead of just spontaneously going to the supermarket every fucking day.
Yeah. So you have got some big fights coming up for your guys, haven't you?
Yep.
Obviously, you've got John fighting Nongo in April. You've got also a week before that, you've got Nath fighting Craig Coakley.
Yeah.
2 massive fights for your guys there, aren't you? What other big fights have you got coming up for you guys?
Craven.
Oh shit, Craven. Start of April, I've got the world title.
Jake Hadley, who's on in the UFC in London in a couple of weeks' time. I've got one of my guys, Jordan Vucenic, who's fighting Cage Warriors, and Joe Watts off my head. I've got a lot of fights, but I can't remember the dates. Chris Shaw's back fighting again soon, so I've got him.
He's fighting in. He's fighting for a title in Spain. I saw that one. Is he fighting before that as well, or?
He's fighting April.
No, is it?
Yeah, April,
nice. Busy time for you then. Fucking hell, April's going to be mental, isn't it? You got Craven in Germany. Then you're going to be out to Thailand with John for that fight.
So we're going to go Germany, then weekend not do anything, then go down to Bendon, then I'll fly straight to Thailand.
Busy month, mate.
Yeah.
What do you want to just give your Instagram handle before we wrap this up, because that's fucking flown by us that. Before we wrap it up, what's your Instagram handle, and if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram, conditional.nutrition. That's where I'm most active. If you need any advice, drop me a message. I'm pretty active on there.
I can personally vouch for your diet plans and working with you and stuff as well, mate. I wish I'd have done it fucking years ago, but like you said, it's trial and error, and I didn't have access to all this stuff before. But mate, I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I could talk forever.
Yeah, mate, we covered quite a lot there. If there's anything that you think we should add in there, or any other questions from anyone out there, just fucking slide into Pete's DMs, and I'm sure he'll get back to you on it. But mate, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. Pleasure.
Cheers.